There are four fears that are stopping most professionals from reaching their full potential. Which one is stopping you?
Believe you were born to win. It's your right to win. Claim it, frame it, 'cause you were.
The first is fear of failure. You'd be so surprised that so many people are afraid of making a mistake or failing that they don't reach far enough to fully maximize their impact because they're playing it too safe. In the environment that we're in now, where most organizations have fully organized risk management divisions in their organization, they have somebody that's looking out for risk. They're asking each of us to really reach and go for it and to try to be as creative as possible, to dream big, but more importantly, to bet big and then to deliver in the biggest way possible. If you are being tasked with that and that is your objective, you cannot keep looking over your shoulder being afraid. Fear has no place in your success equation. And when you are inordinately focused on fear or making a mistake, you cannot fully reach your potential. Here's one way to make sure that you mitigate the impact of this fear of failure. Ask yourself, have you ever failed before? Chances are, if you're over the age of 12, you have. And guess what? You lived to tell it. The second point, there are very few things in life that are irreparable. You make a mistake, then you fix it and you move on. The third thing I'm going to tell you, sometimes the only way you get the lesson is to fail. There's no other way for you to extract that important lesson, or as I like to say, that important pearl, than to fail and to understand what you should have done, because so often we miss the obvious signals of what we need to do. So don't be so afraid of making a mistake that it holds you back from really maximizing your potential. The second big fear is the fear of what other people will say. Wow, that is a huge one when you are so preoccupied with what somebody else might say about the risk you took or about whether or not you had a failure. Remember this: nobody maximizes their success without making a mistake. I know a lot of successful CEOs, amazing leaders, and every single one of them will tell you that on their ascension to that C suite, on their ascension to being an outstanding and amazing leader, they made a lot of mistakes. And you can't be worried about what other people are going to say about that. If you make a mistake, extract the lesson, hold your head high, put it in your tool chest, and continue to advance. If you're worried about what other people are going to say, you will never move. And here's the deal: you can't control what other people are going to say. They could say it anyway. So you want to make sure that the decisions that you make about taking risks, or the decisions that you make about your career, or the decisions that you make as a leader, are decisions that you have made from a good place, a place where you have reviewed the data, you have reviewed the risks, you have reviewed the upside, the opportunity that could happen from you taking that action, and then take the action. The third fear is the fear of limited chances. Man, this is the fear that had me by the neck when I was a young associate just starting out in my career on Wall Street. And why did I have that fear of limited chances? Because I grew up in an environment where my parents would say to me, listen, you better make sure that you get this right. You only have one shot. You won't get another shot. And if you believe that you only will have one shot, then you're going to be very careful with respect to the risks that you take, because you are afraid that you won't get another at bat. You are afraid that you won't get another chance to prove yourself. That fear can hold you back from really swinging for the fences. Well, I'm here to tell you that there is more than one at bat, that there will be many opportunities. So you have to go forward knowing that you will have another chance. And here's how you can make sure that you have another chance. If you make a mistake, you want to be the first person to articulate that mistake. Wow, that was a problem. Man, we made a big mistake. But because we did X, we learned A, B, and C. Now we know what to do in order to be successful. Now we know what to do in order to prosecute this opportunity. Now we know what to do in order to attract other partners to help us prosecute this even faster. It's important that you realize that there is more than one chance. Nobody is successful with just one shot. And then the last one that I'm going to tell you that really grips people and stops them dead in their tracks where they cannot go forward is the fear of success. Now, this was one that I had never heard of until I was a freshman at Harvard. The great Dr. Martina Horner, who at that time was the president of Radcliffe College, she had done a lot of research on the fear of success. And when I first heard this term, I thought, fear of success? Who would be afraid of being successful? But the more I read her research, the more I learned that sometimes because people don't know what's going to be on the other side of their successful action, it can actually stop them from going forward. Because the question in their mind is, so I'm successful, then what? You want to make sure that you've thought a little bit about what's going to happen on the other side of your success because you have everything that it takes in order to be successful. So imagine the success. Imagine yourself in that new role. Do a little research on people who are in those kinds of roles so that you can understand that there's another journey on the other side of reaching that successful accomplishment. And then orient yourself to be on the other side of it, thinking about what your next goal and what your next milestone might be. When you are successful, it gives you leverage to have an even greater impact. And at the end of the day, aren't our lives about purpose and impact and making a difference? You want this world to know that you have, in fact, been here. Go get them.